Installing OpenText ACDI. Docker installation. 6th video in the Installing OpenText ACDI series. In this video, we will walk you through the installation process of OpenText ACDI version 26.2 with Docker. The ACDI installer has been uploaded to the server in advance. So we will begin by extracting the zip file. This process takes some time. Now that the zip file has been extracted, we can proceed to the ACDI folder. Before starting the actual installation, let's first review the basic parameters, as well as the additional parameters related to Docker. The basic parameters include installation path, ACDI logs, and ACDI data. These folders are used for ACDI installation as well as for storing logs, ACDI and OpenSearch data. If needed, these folders can be changed. However, for easier maintenance and support of ACDI, we recommend to use the default folders. Additional parameters related to Docker include Docker subnet, a parameter where we can specify the subnet mask to be used within Docker for ACDI components. Docker gateway, a parameter where we can specify the IP address of the Docker gateway. Instance name, a parameter which is unspecified by default but can be specified if one needs to install several ACDI instances within one Docker host. In this case, if one specifies the instance name, it will be used as a suffix in the name of every ACDI container. For the ACDI installation, root user is required, along with Docker installed beforehand. Upon the first launch, the installer checks the availability of all required utilities. If any are missing or unavailable, it displays a notification and prompts one to install them. The installer also checks whether Docker is installed on the system. Just like in the on-prem version, the installer verifies that there is sufficient free disk space both in the location where ACDI will be installed and in the location where ACDI and OpenSearch data will be stored. On top of that, the installer checks the type of file system that will be used for the data. We do not recommend using network-mounted folders, particularly the NFS network file system, as it does not guarantee stable program performance. One of the installer's checks is to verify the file system speed in the data storage folder. If the speed is insufficient, the system will display a notification. Let's proceed with the installation. At this stage, we unpack and install Docker images from the local repository. This version of ACDI has been tested with Docker versions 27.5.1 and 28.2. In the next installation step, we need to provide the FQDN hostname of the server on which ACDI will run, namely the hostname of the Docker server where we are currently running the installation process. By default it was specified correctly, so we continue our installation. Here we enter the password for the ACDI admin, which is the local service account. And here we enter the password for the OpenSearch admin, which is a service account used for accessing OpenSearch. Next, we configure the LDAP connection to eDirectory. We are using a secure connection. Here we specify the hostname and port in the format hostname, port for our LDAP server. OK, we enter the username of the LDAP service account used to retrieve snapshots and for LDAP authentication in ACDI. And now password. The installer now creates the necessary configuration for Docker containers and sets up a network within Docker. The settings for Docker containers have been configured, and we are now ready to apply all the settings and create the necessary data structure. Let's continue. Great! The data structure has been created, and we can now run the ACDI components as Docker containers. The ACDI components are running. During the installation process, a file containing information about the installation was created in the ACDI installer folder. This file contains sensitive information, so, after ACDI was successfully installed, it can be deleted or moved to a secure location. Let's now check our installation. We follow the link provided. Since a self-signed certificate is used during installation, we add an exception. The user interface is accessible. And the first thing one should do, since the production-like server used during installation has 32 GB of RAM, is to increase the amount of RAM reserved for OpenSearch. In the case of 32 GB, which is the minimum required size for a production system, this could be halved to 16 GB. Here, we modify the settings via the OpenSearch admin interface for the Java virtual machine. It is important to make sure the changes to the settings are saved. Then, let's restart the Docker container. The container has restarted, and we can see additional information about it on the screen. It is to see that managing ACDI Docker components is a transparent and intuitive process for both users and administrators via the administrative user interface, and requires no additional changes. One can also view the log file, which shows that OpenSearch was successfully restarted with the new RAM settings. It would be a good idea to check whether data is being collected by starting the snapshot service for eDirectory, and verifying that the LDAP connection is working. At this point, a Docker container that has the snapshot utility is up and running. If necessary, the logs can be checked again. We see that the connection has been established. Let's go to the home page, where we see that the number of snapshot objects has started to increase, indicating that the program is working correctly. Thank you for your attention. Have a good one.